What's good, YouTube folks, family, friends, anyone that might be watching this video in the future? Bugsy Benjamin back at it again with another video, another gem, another bar. How you guys doing? It's been a long day for me. I guess not really to talk too much about myself, but today's been a long day. I yelled at a 75-year-old grandma. Not anything too crazy at work. She was getting snippy at me, and had to regulate. So other than that, she kind of dampened the mood a little bit, but it was all good. I smoothed it over as well. We had a couple phone calls, and by the last call, it was we were good. We were on good terms, and we were able to get her quote, her car and home quote, and really close. So she likes our price somewhat. We're still a little higher, but we'll find out in May and sometime in the early summer. But yeah, other than that, what else should I tell you about my guy? I didn't even talk, bro. I've been talking all day, and if I sound like an idiot on this stream, on this live, then I mean, it is what it is. I haven't posted in a couple days, and I've been meaning to. Kind of had to give myself a rest after that last marathon stream. I'm almost an hour. Kind of took out my energy for a week or so. So I'm back. Other than that, life is good. PJ, if you see, watch this, hi, how you doing, bubs? I miss my son. He's gonna be here in a couple weeks, so looking forward to that. Work's good. Other than that, yeah, life is what it is. Fixing and managing the relationships with my family, trying to practice what I preach, and that's always gonna be a work in progress. Even when you think that your relationships are strong, there's always bonds can always be built stronger. There's no perfect bond, so always building up on your relationships and communicating, trying to stay open, trying to get that face-to-face time and have big talk, not small talk with people. I'm trying to focus on major topics about what people talk about, what they see out of life, what their ambitions are, thinking about death and thinking about what their life would look like if they had passed away and how that would affect their family. And this is probably coming from this life insurance side of my workplace too, so that's getting me to think differently about how and the which ways I talk to people and what I choose to talk about and the topics of conversation and how those conversations evolve and morph. So that's one thing. And yeah, just practicing what I preach. I'm doing my push-ups. I'm getting my cardio and my walks. I don't run anymore really. Running's too strenuous on the body. Speed walking is my thing. I'll speed walk and do my calisthenics, like I said, and been doing my weights. Trying to eat more protein and bulk up, but it's tough. My metabolism is still racing high here in my mid-30s, so that's not a struggle, but I'm learning to be happy and content in my own body. Where's my cross? Oh, here it is. So that's what's good. Talk to my dad, trying to fix. That's gonna be a long relationship project for me to build up on and fix relationships with my dad, my stepdad. Familiar relationships are always tough. No family is perfect, especially a family as big as mine. My mom's got 9 siblings. My dad, I think, has 2 siblings, and obviously dozens of cousins on when you account for both sides. So the relationships are difficult to manage in a large family. You have dozens of people, dozens of different characters and emotions and histories and personalities. It's crazy. So that's a big focus for me. Other than that, you guys can see the fucking sign came in. and it's shit. I could spend, what am I just spending this shit? Almost $200, something like that. And it says Bugsy Benjamin, but obviously you guys can't see that through the camera because it looks like shit. But in person, it looks a lot better than it comes across on camera. So that's one thing. And yeah, I moved my light. I had my LED strip light. I put it over to behind my door. It was just getting too bright right in front of my bed sometimes at night. But I like the mood lighting. I like mood lighting. So, I got the warm light here, the warm bamboo, what do you call this? Atmospheric light, ambiance light. And I got this, what do you call that shit again? Neon sign. So that was probably one of my dumber purchases I've made so far in 2026, but it is what it is. At least it works. So I'll take it. But yeah. Today, what are we going to talk about today? How are you guys doing, by the way? Those of you guys that have watched maybe 2, 3, 4 of my videos, I know they can be long and out there, and I can go on for days. I can talk about anything for days, really. So I know watching these videos back, you're probably like, yo, can this, nigga get to the point? And the whole point of these videos, really, I don't make these videos for you guys. I don't make these videos for YouTube. I don't make these videos for family, friends. I make them really for myself, so I can go back and rewatch them and pick up concepts that even I miss while recording this in real time. And it helps me frame and look, I like learning for myself. So, I tend to study my flaws and speech patterns. I tend to study how and what I'm thinking about, and they generate new ideas for me too. So when I listen to myself talk about different concepts and ideas, even as they flow through, like these things that I'm talking about, they're just in real time. They're literally a soliloquy in real time. And, verbalizing my inner thoughts is what's happening. And I like to rewatch them, and it gives me new ideas to think about and to talk about. And as I talk about it, it helps me build my frameworks of how I think life works. And yeah, so that's that. I want to talk about how both men and women have destroyed relationships in, I guess, modern society here in 2026. Both marriage and relationships. I feel like for generation, I know that for Generation Y, Generation Z, and then Generation Alpha, very few of us and younger are going to be married. Let alone long term, be married at all. And even with that, very few of us are going to have any experiences with relationships and long-term relationships, a year and beyond, if that. Having a relationship last 6 months these days, if you're in your 30s and younger, even seems like a big accomplishment. But is that to the detriment of society? The fact that we can no longer pair bond on a long-term basis because we all have 100 bodies? And I shouldn't say we all. I would say the majority of the women probably have closer to 100 bodies. The men, the society's most attractive men will probably have 100 bodies plus. But then you have lower on the totem pole, the 7s, the 6, the 5s, the 2s. They may have a couple bodies or none at all. But I think men in general, across the whole spectrum, whether you're a 2 or whether you're a 10, all have blame to play in the dissolution of relationships, both romantic and non-romantic relationships between men and women. Men have played a part, and just as equally, women have played a part. And I would probably argue to the extent that maybe women have played a tad bit more in the demise of relationships, long-term relationships between men and women. And therefore, the lack of stability in our relationships as adults is showing our in our children, in Generation Alpha and Generation Z. Their lack of being able to just read, or even just to pay attention, or to focus, or having curiosity. That type. Those skills, those characteristics are no longer being imprinted in our younger generation, our younger group, en masse. There's always going to be a group, a smaller group of people who nurture and care and invest in their children, and those children will do well throughout societies. They'll become productive members of societies while they're young. But the rest, like the vast majority, the 65 to 75% of the younger generation that struggle to read at grade level, in grade 8, I was watching something on YouTube. This lady who covers, I guess the educational system in both North America and Europe, and she was saying that since COVID, the average grade level of the average reading level of an 8th grader is closer to that of a 4th grader. And I think she was saying that like 20% of the class, 20 to 30% of the class in the 8th grade is reading at a kindergarten level, where they barely even recognize letters. Like they can't. Not only can they not recognize words, they can't recognize the letters that make up the words, and then the words that make up a phrase or a sentence. So she was explaining that. Sorry, a teacher on the documentary was explaining that as she was teaching history, and it was something to the extent of something began in Maryland. So she had wrote down, the war started in Maryland. And then she would ask the class, okay, guys, where did this war start? And then she had the class write down what she wrote on the board. This war started in Maryland. So the whole class wrote down, the war started in Maryland. And then she would ask the class, okay, guys, where was so-and-so war started? And she'd be like, we just covered it. It's on the board. And none of the class knew the answer because they couldn't read. They were just writing letters down. They were just going through the motions of writing and drawing letters without recognizing the letters and the words that they were writing, which was crazy. And this was a grade 8 class. This was an 8th grade class, a grade 8 class. So, the ills of us adults are following and are flowing to our children. My mom used to say, I remember what my mom used to say, but she used to say that the sins of the parents affect the children, or something to that extent. Like the bad that you do as a parent will flow to your children. Like that bad juju will flow to your children, or something to I can't remember the exact phraseology was, but something to that extent. And definitely true. When you do bad by others, and you end up having children of your own, that energy is gonna flow and come back to your form of your children, whether that be situations that happen to your children or your children exhibiting those same behaviors that you put in, into the environment, put into others. So if you put in that negativity, if you were dishonest and spiteful, if you were selfish and refused to see both sides, we refuse to be objective and ignorant, then those ills will pass on to your children. So it's not like, I don't think that there's no God, Skyman looking down and, dictating and judging your every move. I think that naturally us in this world that we live in. Any energy that we put out, be it good, bad, neutral. Well, technically, I don't think there's really no such thing as neutral energy. Energy is either positive or negative. But any energy you put out into the world eventually comes back to affect your life in different in different areas and in different forms. So, you could put out energy. You could have hate and discontent and really contempt for someone, but then that same energy, that same negative, that same quantity of energy, that same quality of energy will come back in maybe a physical negative form. Maybe you might catch cancer, or get into an accident and become disabled, or lose an eye, or become blind, or go paralyzed. Like any bad energy, any consciously bad energy, and energy you put into the atmosphere and give to others, and not just others, animals, anything really in life. If you put bad energy without the intention to correct that, or trying to correct the bad energy that you put in by being positive, or not just by being positive, but by doing right. By doing right, we all know what it is that's right, and what's not just required of us, but what typically would benefit our communities and society. What type of behaviors would benefit our societies, our neighborhoods, and the like. So, it's not about not knowing. It's the fact that we choose to do otherwise. We choose to do the opposite. We choose to be ignorant. We choose to be, oblivious to the effects of our negative actions. And these things are starting to show and play in our society. Not just in our children, but economically. The poor are becoming a larger percentage, a larger group as a percentage of the population in many developed economies. Even though maybe GDP might be rising, I think GDP is only rising because of inflation. GDP is basically rising only because of inflation. We're not really creating anything new other than computer chips and new versions of AI and robots. But a small few people are participating in the major economy that really matters. But the vast majority of people are really just being left out. And, again, that's probably as a result of decisions collectively as societies have made. Like there's collectively dishonest societies, there's collective honest societies, there's societies that value self-improvement, that value the game of chess, and figuring and reading opponents, and there's societies that are violent. There's societies that are peaceful. There's societies that are more family focused. Societies that are more individually focused. There's communist societies where it's collective think and hoarding resources, and resources are just being rationed out. And then there's competition economies, such as United States, Canada, developed economies. So, the way people live and behave as a collective shows as a society, shows as a neighborhood, shows as a country, shows as a nation state, shows as a people, it shows up in our living, what do you call it there, bro? Our lifespan, it shows up in our lifespan, how long we live as males and females. So, actions, again, I'll get back on the men, like, the men that beat on women, like, why would you beat on someone who's physically smaller than you, less capable? you let words anger you to a point where you react physically. You're not reacting in the same. You're not putting out the same. Again, you're not putting out the same energy. If she's manipulating you, manipulate her back. If she's saying something angry that gets your blood boiling, why not do that same thing back? You don't need to put hands on a female, on a woman. Now, if he, it could be a woman, it could be biologically a woman, but if you behave, act, assume, represent your presence as a man, then I treat you like a man, and you're game. Like, you can get hit. You could talk shit and get hit just like any other man. But when I say females, women, like women, you never beat on a woman, a lady. That's probably a better way to put it. You don't beat on or intentionally harm a lady. Now, women, I think, ladies, women in general, humans, men, and everyone in general is really just seeking to survive and the best standard of living possible and the best lifestyle possible. And I think women are more in tune with that, or more attuned with that. And I think that's basically what hypergamy is. Women seeking a greater standard of living than where they're at today. And that's fair. Like, you can't hate on that. Like, we as men, we can't be angry at that. We want the same. We're hypergamous too. When we achieve goals, there's always something else to be achieved. There's always something else that we can look up to and build up on and aspire for. So why do we hate on, or why do we blame women for doing that? I think the issue is the dishonesty in the way that women do that, and the way that they overlap, and there's serial. I think women are serial monogamers. They're with you in that moment, but when it's time to transition from one partner to another, there's always an overlap with women, and that dishonesty without letting the man know is what I think is what the core reason that it's making our relationships dissolve, and is what's beaten distrust. And I don't know if that trust is probably ever going to be built back between the genders. So this is probably the reason why we have the society and the dating environment that we have. Like, our dating environment is trash. Like, I spent a couple weeks on Hinge, and what's the other one? Is it Badoo? Yeah, Badoo. Like, trash. There's nothing on there. And obviously the apps is not going to show you. The apps are going to behave stupid. It's not going to show you, all the matches, everyone in your area, on day one. So, there's that part too. And it's going to show you matches over time. Like, it's going to trickle down proper matches. But until then, you're going to get, like, trash. Fat, old, white, soggy, big, crazy, black, all tattered up, trans people on there, like, just insane, just garbage. You're just gonna get garbage on the app until you put your time in, I guess, and then just after a while you forget about it, and you check on it like once a month, or once a week, and eventually you'll see a 1-2 ting, and then a 1-2 ting might respond back. But other than that, like, trash. Apps are trash. Like, it's just a representation of what society's like. When I walk outside, is what I see. It's what I see on the dating apps, and it's trash. Like, why as a society are we not better? Not to say that I'm the best, or not to say that I'm the better representation of society, because I'm not. Like, I have my own major big flaws, like, and so does all of us have major flaws. But why don't we as a collective, why don't we as a society value that improvement, like improving not only our relationships between each other, as I think the dishonesty, the core of the relationship breakdown is dishonesty between both men and women. And obviously there's the aspect of finance and men having that control, because men typically are built to earn more income than the woman over a lifespan. So there's that aspect of, okay, I have a man who's reliable source of resources. So that's what you basically represent to a woman. And the man is looking at the woman like, okay, I can pass on my genes. I can pass on my genes to the next generation. And then by default, she gets taken care of because she nurtures and raises your children. So I guess that's basically society as a whole. And I guess the marriage laws surrounding that govern the way men and women interact that way, govern the sexual interactions of men and women, family law, common law relationships, divorce law, tort law, then there's civil law, there's so many different types of laws, and you gotta abide by the laws. Like my whole thing, one of my philosophies is just to abide by the laws of the land. I don't care about the laws of the land, but I abide by the laws of the land. And if I travel and I take a flight and I land on Spanish soil, then I'm abiding by Spanish laws of the land. So what do they say? As in Rome, do but what is it? When in Rome, do as the Romans, or something like that. So that's one of my core tenets, and I think there's a bone to pick about being honest and about giving too much, like oversharing too much information. Like you can be honest and objective and telling the truth to a T and stating the situation and the context accurately, but not overshare like intimate details that might not be as flattering. Like obviously there's it's not about being honest 120% of the time. Like everything you say, you're 100%, you gotta say. You don't have to say everything that's on your mind. I think I've told my sister this shit. Like, you don't have to verbalize everything that's on your mind. But when you do say something, when you do speak, when you are interacting, when you are communicating, you need to be honest. So that's probably a key aspect in terms of relationships with men and women. And there's an aspect that two women maybe seem more dishonest because they may be physically scared of the man reacting in a certain way when she knows she's got to give news or to say something that he's not going to want to hear, or is going to react in a certain way because I'm not happy, I'm divorcing you. When a woman knows when she eventually has to let her man that she's not going to tell you in that type of manner. It's going to be slow. It's going to be a slow trickle over time. She's going to little hints and signals, just little brush little comments here and there, and then that will build up to disrespect, and then that might build up to less action in the bedroom. Then that builds up to her seeking more of a lifestyle outside of the home than was typically usual for her. And then it spirals out of control. And then the man sees that. The man is, what is he gonna do? He's either stuck at home, maybe raising the children, or also has his own life outside of the household. And then over time, if the two people are, it's okay to, I guess, it's okay to have your own life outside the household and then bring that back in. You guys have your, I have my job, she has her job, she has her life, he has his life, and they're both killing it, and they both can come back home and contribute without being dishonest. Like, is that too difficult for people to do? To be yourselves, to have your own identity, to have your own person, to have your own philosophy, ways of thinking, to have your own way of seeing the world when you're out. Like where multiple identities be. Like when you're out in the world, you're you. Like when I'm out in the world, I'm Bugsy Benjamin, I'm Adrian Benjamin. And then when I'm back home or when I'm out with my family, it's not about Bugsy Benjamin, it's about the John family. It's about the Benjamin family. Like that's how it is. Or, you know, when I'm with my cousins, then I'm representative of that identity of my male cousins, of my male and female, like whoever you're, like I said, birds of a feather flock together. Whoever you're with, you're a representation of that identity, that culture. So me as an individual doesn't and shouldn't matter. So knowing that, what incentive do I have to, misrepresent the facts, lie, to deceive? And then to have to worry about remembering that if and when that conversation comes up tomorrow or 6 months in the future. I don't have to remember these things. So that's cognitive bandwidth that's not taken to remember things that are useless, that are not going to benefit me in the future. So I can think about more important topics and think about how to improve on the things that matter and not gossip or finding ways of covering up dishonesty and wrongdoing. And you know, another big aspect too is technology, B. You know, with these cell phones now, I'm still on my old iPhone 11. These cell phones, social media. Social media is it should be called anti-social media. It's made us so comfortable with being physically apart and away from each other. It's normal to us now. Ever since COVID, I think COVID was the catalyst for instilling that characteristic in our society of being individualistic and comfortable with being in almost isolation into a certain form. We've been so comfortable with communicating. It's so easy to communicate physically apart that we rarely are physically together. We're rarely face to face. We're rarely in energy of each other. And that skill is being diluted in our younger generation. Maybe our older, I think Generation Y and above, has that skill of being able to communicate and energy exchange and, you know, interact with the world, the vast population. We have I think everyone has a introvert part of them and an extrovert part of them, but that extrovert part takes skills. It takes practice. It takes experience to get that extrovert part effective in society, to be able to communicate and to exchange ideas with different people of different cultures and different ages and of different backgrounds and of different life experiences and you name it, bro. You know, different social economic statuses. I talked to CEOs. I talked to people that just arrived to Canada yesterday. And in between, every job in between, I think I've talked to every, I think I have 19 years of now being in the workforce. I've talked to every single probably job title that exists. Every type of person, at all walks of life that exists. So it's comfortable, it's easy, it's natural for me. So it's nothing new. So when I travel, when I go wherever it is in the world, there's nothing. I shouldn't say the only flaw, but one major flaw is that the fact that I can't speak multiple languages. I only speak English, a little bit of French. I could understand and read a little bit of French from living in Montreal for 4 years and where my son currently still is. But aside from that, it's just English. So that's my only thing. So I can't communicate verbally with everybody. But without it, well, I mean, we have translators now, so yeah, I can communicate to a certain extent verbally now, and hopefully that becomes better. But yeah, just being able to get that experience and talk to different people and being curious and wanting to understand and wanting to know about who it is that you're talking to and what can you gather from that person. It could be you could be the CEO of the largest pension fund, and you can talk to Chief Keef, and there's things about Chief Keef, and there's characteristics about Chief Keef and his experiences and his knowledge and his wisdom. We all have wisdom. We all have some type of educed wisdom, which, we all have a brain, no? So CEO can talk to Chief Keef and pick up nuggets of wisdom, and vice versa. And that's the whole point of human exchange, is to exchange knowledge, ideas, ways of living, lifestyle, for the benefit, for the growth of society, for the growth of our economy, for the growth of technology and our standard of living, and blah 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 blah. So people that like to put themselves, like I say, what do I say? People that like to wear a t-shirt and then to never take it off. They put on a t-shirt and they wear it for their whole lives. They categorize themselves like, I'm Muslim, I'm Catholic, I'm Jewish. I can only interact, I can only resonate with that culture, with that group. Or I'm of darker skin color, I'm black, I have fine curly 4C hair, so therefore I must act in a certain way. I gotta act and perpetuate the stereotypes of who I represent and who I show to be. Could be your nationality. I'm American. Even though you're American, do you represent yourself as Donald Trump, even though he's your representative? Donald Trump is a representative for Americans. Donald Trump essentially speaks for Americans on the world stage. But I would probably argue that 65% of the American population in here early February 2026 hate Donald Trump or have negative feelings towards Donald Trump. But he still speaks for the whole country and will for the next 2.5 years or 3 years, whatever it is. So, these are kind of things you got to think about. What type of, even Donald Trump, are you conscientious of the things that you do and say on a daily basis? Or is everything about a game of chess or about exploitation and, figuring out what you can get rather than what you can contribute and how that can benefit your own population? What are you doing to benefit your own population? Like, what are you doing to benefit your backyard? To take care of your own people? Financially, especially financially. I know the country is, I guess, the government's trying to cut down on expenses, cut down on government workers and federal workers, trying to cut down on freeloading benefits, which I 100% agree with. That's one, cut that shit. All them freeloading benefits, for anyone that's able-bodied and able to perform mental tasks, should be working, in my opinion. And even if you're disabled, there's some way you can contribute to the economy or contribute to someone. Contribute to someone so much that they're willing to pay you. Which is basically what an economy is what a labor market is. So I give Donald Trump that props in him wanting to, financially fix the economy and wanting to financially help the population. You know, the 10% credit card percent interest rate percent cap. That's pretty interesting. I don't know what the reverberating economic you know consequences would be, but I that's something I appreciate. The 50-year mortgage sounds that was fucking ridiculous. But you know, I get him wanting to help his people. I just don't think, Donald Trump, that your intentions and the actions they're completely misaligned. I know you want good for your people, but the actions, the things you do say, aren't benefiting the people of the United States, I think. Holistically, economically. Especially with all this tariff shit and tariffs on, tariffs off. Oh, this country gets 10% tariffs today. This tariff's on till October 19th. And tomorrow when I wake up, I think I'm going to slap Azerbaijan with the 35% tariff just because the president woke up and said hi to the wrong person yesterday. So like, I don't get it, and I don't think anyone else gets it. Maybe that's the whole point. Maybe that Donald Trump, that's probably your whole game. Your whole game is that there is no game, and that you just do whatever you want to do day in and day out because you're the president, which is cool, and you know I can't knock that. So to be honest, I like the chaos, so I'm with the shit. So I don't have really any bad comments to it. I just think that some things you're doing, bruh, isn't helping the people. So that's probably something you want to keep in mind. The things you say some good things, you say a lot of bad things, you say a lot of fucked up, crazy things. So, you know, the balance is not there. But anyways, on to other things. But yeah, these are all the little things that have contributed to the decline and the destruction of relationships between men and women. We have really done a bit on people, and I've done my own fair share of bad, stupid shit, and you know, things that I regret. Like, you know, one thing I do regret. You know, sorry to, you know who you are if you're watching this. I was just gonna say her name, but you know, she asked me out on a date one night, and I just didn't want to go, and I told her, yeah, I'll let you know in an hour. I think I'll let you know in an hour or so, and I never responded back. And this was like, yeah, we've been talking. This is like 3 months, 6 months into the relationship, and yeah, I ghosted her for the night, and then I don't even know, but it was a whole shit, and then I had to apologize, and I had to, you know. But to this day, I think about it. I think about it today. I'm like, fuck, like I shouldn't never have done that. Should have gone out. Maybe life would have turned out. Probably would have turned out different. Maybe not. Probably not. Yeah. Yeah, definitely not. But yeah, that's one thing. So yeah, I'm not perfect. I made my own fair share of mistakes, and to my own discredit. So, you know, even though there's no shit, like we should all strive to practice what we preach, and it should, even though we preach it, doesn't mean that you can hold someone by past standards. Like if you preach it, then abide by it going forward. Like it should be representation of who you are today and your recent past. But like your past, and especially if you've changed in other aspects, not just, you know, financial, but you've changed yourself. You're a whole different human being in terms of where you approach the world. Then that's different. But yeah, I don't care, bro. To be honest, a lot of the answers to the major questions that people ask me is, one, I probably don't know the answer, and two, I can probably find the answer, but three, I just don't care. I just don't give a fuck. Like, it's not important on the grand scheme of things. Like I said, Oh, that's what I was going to talk about. Big talk and small talk. I like to talk about big talk. I don't want to talk about the small things now in life. I want to talk about like what's here, bro. I want to talk about woman, lady. Where do you see it? Like this question, my ex could never. I don't think any really my exes could really answer. I would always ask, where do you envision yourself? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? How do you see your lifestyle? And they could never answer the question. It was always like, it's this one thing about women. Like they would always, a lot of them open up and they say, being able to envision and see and project the future is just one skill that they haven't developed. It's just one skill maybe as a gender they're not adept at. I think that's probably one of the major strengths. You know, both men and women have strengths, but one of the major strengths that men have is be able to envision and project the future. And I think one of the strengths that women have is being able to identify the true flaws and the things that we can improve as men. So, you know, there's naturally a divergence of opinions and feelings, but there's a Goldilocks area where men's focus on men's focus on the future can merge with women's focus on the current and identifying the flaws. So while men study improving our future standard of living, women are identifying maybe social flaws. And to be honest, I don't think as a gender women are doing as good of a job as they could be identifying social and relationship flaws and attempting to fix flaws. I find that a lot of females, women, ladies, whatever have you, don't like to sit with themselves, like to really sit with yourself and think about who you are as a person and what you have, who you were and who you were as a person in the past, and the things you've done, accomplished, said, acted, did, became as a person to where you are today. And then truly like looking at flaws that you have as part of your set of characteristics as a personality, and figure out ways you can how you can improve that. Figuring out what your weaknesses are and what your strengths are, and then verbalizing that, being honest with what your strengths are. Being honest with what your strengths and weaknesses are. I don't think women as a gender are good at that. They're good at identifying the flaws in men and in society and in social structures, but I don't think they're good at like looking at them. I don't think they're good at looking in the mirror. I don't know. Am I wrong? I could be wrong. Ladies, you guys tell me in the chat. Like, I don't know. Men, tell me in the chat how do you guys feel? Is what I'm saying true? Is what I'm saying, do you agree with, like I say, take things that you agree with, discard the things that you don't. Like, no one's 100% perfect. Bosie Benjamin's philosophies aren't 100% perfect. You're going to take things and aspects of me and what I say in my life, but I expect you not, like, no one should be trying to become or want to be like someone else as a complete whole person. You always want to take and, borrow aspects of the good, like intangibles, like I say, intangible aspects of others that you can use to improve your own life. Different philosophies that you can use to improve your own life. Like 5 minutes a day at improving something, even something small, over time adds up. That the theory of compounding, like just little things that you can take from other people, little nuggets. And you really can only get that by interacting and exchanging and speaking to people with a wide array of experiences. And I think a big aspect is a big aspect of that. Like I said, guys, yo, it's been a long day, bruh. I've been talking since 8:30. What time is it? 7. I've been talking for almost 12 hours straight. So my speech is gonna be messed up. But shit, yo, where was I? Completely lost my train of thought. But yo, we need to like find ways of improving. Oh, that's what I was saying. Taking nuggets and discarding what you don't need. Don't take everything for what, like even myself, don't take everything that I'm saying as 100% gonna work for you or 100% applies to society as a whole or to every single person. There's always gonna be exceptions to the rules. There's always gonna be outliers. But I like to speak in generalities. I like to speak in naturally, typically, based on the laws of nature, this is what's true. And that's the way I like to speak. Like I don't care about what you think is good. I don't care about what your idealistic world should be. I don't care about your religion, your culture. What actually works on a financial, on a mental, cognitive, on a health level, on a obtaining what we want out of life, on a emotional level, on a spiritual level, on a psychological level, on a relationship level. Like, how do we get the most out of what we were put here to do or be? We do and we be. Do you judge people by what they do, or do you judge people by who they be? But that's pretty much it for today. Oh damn, yo, my next, I don't know. So you know what, yo, how long has it been? 52 minutes, yo. Actually, hold on. Wait a minute. That's true. That's true. Autonomy gains freedom, but autonomy costs isolation. Having full autonomy means you don't have anyone really rocking with you all the time, which is what causes isolation. And smartphones are probably a big aspect of that because it's so easy, it's so convenient. Flexibility. Autonomy gains flexibility in life, but no shared legacy. Well, I don't know about that. I don't think that's true. Autonomy gains flexibility, but no shared legacy. Everything you do is a shared legacy. I disagree with that, bro. See, yo, I be reading AI all the time, but you guys that read AI, that think AI is right all the time, you guys are fucking stupid. You guys need to really read and look at, right, critically think about what you're reading on AI. AI isn't just an automatic right. A good percentage of the time, AI is dead wrong. You gotta read your shit. Those of you guys that rely on AI is a tool that should be used for generally accurate purposes, but it shouldn't be used for fringe or for everything. It shouldn't be used for complete knowledge and understanding. All it's doing is just projecting what it thinks the next accurate word is gonna be. It doesn't understand context. It doesn't understand sentences. But I think the new models do, though. I think the one that I'm using definitely understands context. So I don't know, bro. I have no idea. But eventually there's going to be artificial general intelligence where it's just the computers are going to be smarter than any human being ever was and ever will be. It can just do all things better than everybody, and it can figure out everything. It can solve all problems and every problem. That's going to be abundant. That's going to be ultimate forever abundance. If humans do right, obviously humans aren't known to do the right thing. So To be honest, I highly doubt that, but hopefully we've got the right people. We employ and we vote the right people in place to do what's right for society. Hopefully we've got the right population and parents educating and men and women behaving accordingly to make sure society doesn't get out of hand, especially with this AI bullshit. But yeah, I don't agree with that. Autonomy gains flexibility, but no shared legacy. Like everything you do is a shared legacy. Any family you start, legacy. Any name you carry on, legacy. Especially work-wise. Let's say you're an electrician for years. Every home that you built is a legacy. Like especially in blue collar, like anything that you've helped participate in, bro. Like any frame structure, any brick you've laid, any windows you've installed, like any flooring you've installed, like anything, any HVAC you've installed, anything you've installed and built upon, any neighborhood you planned, any engineering, any bridge you've built, like those are legacies. So I disagree with that aspect. We all have legacies. Our legacies aren't just our children. Legacies are how and what people talk about when we're not here. Not just dead and gone, but when we're not physically present. Legacies are... There's so many things to the word legacy. Autonomy gains emotional safety, but autonomy costs shallow intimacy. Bro, I can't read tonight, yo. So let me read that back again. Autonomy gains emotional safety. Autonomy costs shallow intimacy. Yeah, it's true. Shallow intimacy. Gains emotional safety. Yeah, because emotional safety. Being autonomous gains emotional safety. Yeah, that part I agree with. It makes you be comfortable and honest sitting with yourself. So I agree with being, emotional safety is a gain. Now, shallow intimacy, autonomy, and being your own person, being self-driven and self-directed. Yeah, shallow intimacy. Yeah, because you're always going to be prioritizing number one. Like I said in my video, I live for number one first. So you're never going to put anyone before number one other than your child. You're never going to put anyone before number one other than your child or children. So yeah, I agree with that. Shallow intimacy, I agree. Because unless we as individuals are in relationships where there's a common long-term understanding, there's a reason why you're in a long-term marriage or relationship, then intimacy is going to be shallow. Definitely. Especially when people are jumping in and out of relationships every couple weeks, every couple months, every 5 years. I don't know. These are just thoughts. I'm just riffing off the dome. Autonomy gains control, but autonomy costs no deep interdependence. That's true. Autonomy does gain you control and full authority over your life and full responsibility over your life. And autonomy costs no deep interdependence. I don't know if that's a cost. Is deep interdependence a cost? Is that... I don't know. I don't want to be dependent on really anything. So that wouldn't be a cost. What do you guys think? Type it in the comments for whoever watches this video. But shoot, we at an hour already. I'm gonna leave it at that. Yeah, thanks for joining me on another video. It's probably gonna be another week until another upload. If I get it up sooner, hurrah. But Thank you for sitting through this. Like I say, take with what you will, discard with what you don't need or understand. You know, please ignore the negative aspects of my personality and embrace the positive. I have many negatives, but I got many positives too. So please, and if you want to embrace the negatives, then I can do that too. We can do that too. Just put it in the comments. All action is good action. But other than that, you guys stay healthy, stay active, stay in motion. It's Bugsy Benjamin, back at it again with another video. Peace.